My name is Mary Lee, 32 years old. 6 weeks before the vineyard and the tow truck, before the shouting and the tuxedo shoes scraping gravel, I came home to the small, practice piece of my kitchen. A bowl in the drying rack, the scent of lemon dish soap, sunlight striping the table. Ethan Park sat there with his laptop open and a neat stack of papers to his right, like he'd rearranged chaos into something that looked like order. His face had the wrong kind of calm, the polite stillness people wear when they're about to ask for forgiveness instead of permission. "Hey," I said, setting my tote on the counter. "What are you working on?" He closed the laptop too fast. "Just some bills." We'd been together 2 years. He moved into my house 14 months ago, after we decided splitting rent, when one person already owns the mortgage was silly. We split groceries and utilities because fair can look like math if you squint. He had his project manager job. I had mine in data analytics. We shared coffee pods and a Netflix account and a calendar with meal plans. We did not share passwords. We did not share my filing cabinet. That night, Ethan kept checking his phone and smiling, the secretive kind of smile that thinks it can pass as nothing. I noticed and filed it away. Data first, conclusions later. I am very good at later. 4 days after the too fast laptop close and the too bright smile, my phone rang at 10:17 a.m. A woman from the bank wanted to verify an auto loan application. Was I buying a car? "No," I said, "I am not." A pause, tight and professional. "We have an application with your name and social security number. Before final approval, we—" "Reject," I said, already cold, "immediately." I hung up and pulled my credit report so fast my hands shook. There it was, a hard inquiry stamped yesterday. My name, my number. Someone had pressed my life into their shape and hoped the paper wouldn't tear. 20 minutes later, the front door opened. Ethan walked in, smelled like rain and coffee, and found me at the dining table staring at my laptop the way you stare at a stranger who uses your nickname. "What's wrong?" he asked. He saw the page on the screen. Something in his face drained. "Someone tried to take out a car loan in my name," I said evenly. "The bank flagged it." He sat. Didn't touch me. Didn't touch anything. Just folded his hands like a child called to the principal's office. "Mary," he said, and the way he said my name made a small, tired anger unfurl inside me. I need to explain. Explain is a word that likes to dress as mercy. He told me his sister, Ivy, needed a car. Her credit was a graveyard of missed payments and repossessions. She'd found a black Dodge Charger she loved, because of course it was a Charger, and the dealership wouldn't approve her. "She can't keep borrowing rides to work," he added, like that detail would polish the story into something noble. I offered to help. I figured you'd understand. "How did you get my social?" I asked. My voice sounded like the edge of a table, flat, hard. He hesitated just a beat too long. "Your tax forms, in the cabinet." "My locked cabinet. You gave me the spare key when you were out of town." "For the meter guy," I said. "For emergencies." "This was an emergency," he said, and the words were almost ridiculous in their earnestness. "Mary, we're family. Ivy's family. She'll make every payment. It won't touch you." There's a special kind of quiet when someone you love has already decided what you should forgive. "Ethan," I said, careful as a fuse, "what you did is fraud." "That's a strong word." "It's the correct word. I was trying to help my sister. We've been together 2 years. You have great credit. You can afford it." He reached for my hand like a prop he could still use. "This is what people do when they're serious. They help each other." "Helping," I said, pulling back, "would have been asking." His jaw tightened. "You would have said no." "Yes." "So I handled it," he said, the way some people say they took out the trash. I stood. The space between us felt like a cliff. "You're going to call Ivy and tell her the loan isn't happening. Right now." He shook his head. "The dealership expects her in 2 days. She sold her old car for the down payment. Mary, she needs this. My parents are counting on it. If you report this, you'll ruin everything." I picked up my phone. He grabbed my wrist. Not hard, but enough to say he'd forgotten what my body was to me. I stared at him until he remembered, and he let go. I called the bank and used the phrases they need to hear. Identity theft, formal fraud report, freeze, documentation. This time, the rep's voice turned from bland customer service to careful procedure. She told me they'd stop the application immediately. She gave me a case number that felt like a lock clicking into place. When I hung up, Ethan's eyes were wet. "You don't have to do this," he said. "My parents will never forgive you. Ivy won't. You don't know what this will do to our family." I heard you, I said. That's why I called. His anger came back like a tide. He called me selfish, controlling, vindictive. He said I was making something small into something huge. The words bounced off the walls and clattered to the floor like dropped forks. I let him talk until he ran out of synonyms for monster. You should go, I said finally. This is my home, he said. My name is the only one on the deed, I said, and on the locks. He left with a slam that knocked a photo frame off the wall. The glass cracked across our smiling faces, a white scar between us. I picked it up carefully and set it on the table beside my case number. The next morning, I drove to the police station with a folder of screenshots and timelines and bank emails. Domestic fraud cases are complicated, the officer warned, but he took my report. He scanned pages. He stapled. He told me a detective would follow up. I left with copies, the paper warm against my palms. By noon, my phone filled with messages from numbers I didn't recognize. Ethan, then Ivy, then Mrs. Park, her voice thick with a practiced sadness. Mary, sweetheart, you're breaking our family over a misunderstanding. Mr. Park's message was shorter and solid as a fist. I didn't reply. I added their numbers to a quiet list and slid the list into a mental drawer that had only 2 labels. Document. Wait. That evening, when the light got soft and the apartment felt lonelier than it should, I sat at the kitchen table again and looked at the cracked photo. If I'm honest, my hands trembled. Not from fear, though there was some of that, but from the aftershock of a boundary re-nailed into place. It is a physically exhausting thing to decide you will not be stolen from. I opened my planner and wrote down the date and the case number, like a vow to my future self that I would not be talked out of my own reality. When I turned the page, a lilac RSVP card slipped out, a save the date I'd ignored. Ivy and Daniel. Next month, 2:00 p.m., West Haven Vineyard. I stared at the embossed vines crawling around their names. It's a strange, indecent thing, how life keeps handing you its little confetti while you are busy cleaning up glass. The detective called 2 days later to confirm the bank had verified a forged signature. Charges were likely. These take time, he said, but your documentation is strong. I thanked him and hung up. Outside, somewhere in the neighborhood, a car alarm chirped, and then the street fell back into its ordinary hush. I washed the cracked frame and put the photo in a drawer I didn't open again. I made tea. I stood by the window long enough to memorize the ordinary, because I had the feeling ordinary was about to end. Close to midnight, Ethan texted from a new number. We can fix this if you stop now. Then another. You don't know what you've started. And then the one that told me more than he meant to. If Ivy loses this car, it's on you. I turned my phone screen down and set my mug in the sink, the ceramic ring of it neat and final. People will tell you who they are. If you're lucky, or unlucky enough to be paying attention, you'll believe them the first time. I went to bed with a steady heart and a case number, and the very faint image in my mind of a vineyard at 2 p.m, sunlight on gravel, the sound a heavy thing makes when it finally gets lifted. I didn't know why that image arrived then. I only knew it felt like foreshadowing wearing a dress I recognized, but couldn't yet name. In the morning, I changed the locks. I labeled the new keys. I made a list of what was mine, what wasn't, and what would never be again. Boundaries, too, can be inventory. The first sign that Ethan's family had chosen their side wasn't the phone call. It was the silence. For 4 days, nothing. No texts, no emails, no knock on the door. Just quiet, the kind that hums like an appliance still plugged in somewhere out of sight. Then, Friday night, the doorbell rang. I was folding laundry when I heard it. 2 short rings, confident, familiar. I looked through the peephole and saw Mr. Park on my porch, the same posture as his son, arms crossed, chin forward, but decades heavier, rougher. Evening, Mary, he said, voice muffled by the door. We need to talk. I can hear you just fine through the door, I said. I didn't unchain it. I had learned, in 1 week, how easily a person can mistake politeness for safety. He chuckled. You really going to hide behind a lock after what you've done to my family? Your son committed identity theft, I said. That's what this is about. He leaned closer, the porch light catching the gray in his beard. Ethan was trying to help his sister. You're being selfish, vindictive. Family helps family. I'm not your family, I said. His jaw tightened. If you keep pushing this, you'll regret it. Think about what you're doing to good people. I raised my phone and pressed record. You have 30 seconds to leave, Mr. Park. I'm documenting this conversation for the detective. For a moment, I thought he might try the handle anyway. Then he stepped back, eyes hard. You're not worth what you're about to start. He turned and walked off, muttering something that sounded like coward. I replayed the recording twice, not for comfort, just to make sure every word was clear. Then I emailed it to myself and the detective. Paper trails, even digital ones, are small prayers. The next day, the detective called. Mary, I received your email. I'm adding this to the file. We've got confirmation from the bank. The signature on the auto loan was forged, and your name was used without consent. The case is moving forward. What happens now? I asked. Officially, the district attorney will review charges. Ethan may be contacted soon. Unofficially, I'd recommend documenting any further contact or threats. Understood, I said. My voice sounded calm, but my hands were trembling again. The adrenaline kind. Not fear exactly. Just the body reminding you it still cares about survival. After I hung up, I opened social media to distract myself and instantly regretted it. There it was, a post from Ivy Park, smiling in a white floral dress beside her fiancé, captioned, Countdown to Forever. 3 weeks. The comments were full of congratulations and heart emojis. Someone asked if her brother Ethan would be walking her down the aisle. She replied, Of course. He's the most loyal man I know. I stared at that sentence until the screen dimmed. That evening, I went to the station again with a folder of new printouts. The same officer from last week looked up when I approached. Back again, Ms. Lee? Yes, I said. I thought you should have this. I handed him the transcript of my conversation with Mr. Park and a printed screenshot of Ivy's post. Motive, timeline, family pressure. It all fits. He glanced at the papers. You're thorough. I like things documented, I said. Paper can't lie to you. He smiled faintly. Most people just want the drama to end. I don't want drama, I said. I want accountability. 2 nights later, Ethan showed up. He didn't knock this time. He stood in the driveway, hands in his pockets, looking at the light in my kitchen window. I saw him through the curtain before he saw me. He looked tired, like he'd spent days rehearsing his apology and forgotten half the lines. I opened the window an inch, just enough to speak through the screen. You shouldn't be here, Ethan. I came to talk, he said. Please. Talk, I said. He stepped closer, palms out. I know you're angry. I know I messed up. But the loan didn't even go through. No harm done. Not true, I said. You harmed my credit. You broke my trust. You broke the law. He shook his head. You're blowing this out of proportion. Ivy's getting married. She's already got a car. Dad co-signed. Everything's fine now. Something about the way he said fine made my skin crawl. Like the past week had just been an inconvenient misunderstanding. Something to sweep under the rug so the family photo would look nice again. Ethan, I said quietly, everything isn't fine. You forged my name. He leaned against the porch rail, smiling in that way people do when they're pretending they're still in control. You can let this go. No one needs to know. I already filed the report, I said. His eyes flickered. You? What? It's in motion, I said. You'll hear from the detective soon. He laughed, short and sharp. You really think they'll charge me? It'll never stick. It's your word against mine. I have the documents, the timestamps, the signature analysis, I said. It's already sticking. He went quiet then, the mask slipping just enough for me to see the fear underneath. Then, like flipping a switch, his voice softened. Mary, please. I was under pressure. Ivy's been through so much. She lost her job last year. She's barely holding it together. If you do this, you'll ruin her wedding. That's not my responsibility, I said. He stared at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I didn't want it to go this way, he said. You're choosing the hard road. Better the hard road than the dishonest one, I replied. When he left, I locked every door in the house twice. The quiet that followed wasn't peaceful this time. It was alert, listening. The next few days blurred together. More calls from unknown numbers, more pleading voicemails from Mrs. Park, alternating between sorrow and rage. I started saving them into a folder labeled Case Evidence. It was grimly satisfying, watching the digital stack grow. On Wednesday morning, Detective Navarro called. We have enough to move forward. The DA's office is preparing charges. Ethan Park will be formally notified within the week. Thank you, I said, exhaling for the first time in days. He hesitated. You might want to be cautious. When people feel cornered, they don't always behave predictably. Noted, I said. That night, I sat at my kitchen table again, the same table where all this had started, and sorted through a pile of printouts. Among them was the wedding invitation I'd pulled from my planner. West Haven Vineyard, 2:00 p.m. I almost threw it away, but something stopped me. Instead, I wrote in the margin, 2:15, remember this. I didn't know yet why that time mattered, only that it felt like gravity tugging at the future, soft but certain. Friday morning, an email from Detective Navarro. Bank concluded investigation. Signature confirmed fraudulent. Case ready for review. Attached was the final report, a neat, unemotional document with legal phrasing and timestamps. At the bottom, a single sentence. Recommendation. Charges proceed. I printed it, clipped it into a folder, and slid it into my desk drawer. Then I went to the window. Outside, a black Charger, sleek, proud, and freshly washed, rolled past the curb, Ivy in the driver's seat, smiling, her fiancé in the passenger side. The car I never signed for, the life they thought they stole clean. I watched until the taillights vanished, then whispered to the empty room, enjoy it while it lasts. 3 days later, the detective called again. His voice carried that mix of satisfaction and apology. Professionals use when good news still means trouble for someone. Mary, he said, charges have been filed. Forgery and attempted identity theft. Ethan Park is officially under investigation. Expect his attorney to reach out soon. I thanked him. After we hung up, I stared at the word charges scribbled in my notebook. It didn't look like justice yet, just ink, but it was real. That night, rain hit the windows in sharp bursts. I made tea and watched the streetlights tremble through the water. My phone buzzed once. Unknown number. I didn't answer. Then another, and another. When I finally looked, there were 8 missed calls and 1 voicemail. It was Ivy. Mary, please, don't do this to my brother. He was just helping me. I didn't know he used your name until afterward. You've already embarrassed us enough. Please, if you ever loved him, just drop this. You don't understand what you're doing. Her voice broke on that last line, but it wasn't grief, it was entitlement collapsing. I replayed it twice, just to be sure, then filed it under evidence. By the end of the week, Ethan's parents joined in. Mrs. Park called my work line, somehow bypassing reception. Mary, I'm begging you, she whispered, like a woman asking for mercy instead of accountability. Ethan's father hasn't slept. Ivy's wedding is in 2 weeks. This will destroy her big day. You're punishing everyone for one mistake. One crime, I corrected, not a mistake. She sighed. I knew you were cold, but this is cruel. When she hung up, my hands shook, not from guilt, but from fury at how easily people rename harm when it comes from their own. I left work early and stopped by the detective's office. He looked up from his desk and nodded toward the chair across from him. Family giving you a hard time? They don't believe in consequences, I said. He smiled faintly. Most families don't, until it's their credit card number. He gave me updates. The district attorney had approved formal charges. A court date would follow within the month. Ethan had been served. He didn't take it well, the detective added. But that's not your problem. It wasn't, though the way people said not your problem always made it sound like they wished it still were. 2 days later, a knock rattled the door again. I looked through the peephole and saw Mrs. Park this time, makeup streaked, eyes red, clutching a handbag like a weapon made of guilt. Please, she said through the door, just talk to me. 5 minutes. Mrs. Park, I said evenly, if you don't leave, I'll call the police. She pressed her palm against the glass panel. You think this makes you righteous? You've already ruined Ethan's career. He's suspended pending investigation. He'll lose everything. And Ivy's wedding. God, you're going to humiliate us in front of everyone. Stop, I said, louder than I meant to. I didn't humiliate you. You did that yourselves when you raised a man who thought forgery was love. Her lip trembled. You'll regret this, Mary. You'll be alone forever. When she finally left, I sat on the floor by the door, exhaling until the tremor left my hands. It wasn't victory yet, just clarity wearing new shoes. The following Monday, the detective's number appeared again. Update for you, he said. Ethan's been arraigned, released on bail. His attorneys reached out to propose a settlement, restitution if you agree to drop the charges. I smiled without humor. Let me guess. He called it a misunderstanding. Something like that, the detective said. You don't have to respond. Just keep your distance. But I did respond, through silence. Silence is the one boundary people can't negotiate. The days leading up to Ivy's wedding unfolded like a countdown. Every social post, every tagged photo became a reminder that her family still believed they'd dodged consequence. Ivy posted a picture of her new car again, the Charger, polished to mirror black, parked outside the venue during rehearsal. Can't wait to drive into married life. Her father commented, "Proud of you, kiddo." Ethan liked the post. I sat on my couch, scrolling through the comments, and felt something cold settle into place. Not anger, exactly. More like alignment. The world was about to balance its own scales. 2 nights before the wedding, Ethan came by one last time. He parked halfway down the street, like that would make it casual. I heard the car door, his footsteps crunching the gravel. When he knocked, I didn't answer. He tried again. "Mary, come on, you can't ignore me forever." "I can," I called through the door. "Please." His voice cracked. "They're coming after me from every angle. The court, the bank, my job. I could lose everything." "You mean you could face the consequences?" I said. "This isn't who you are," he said. "You're better than revenge." "Revenge," I repeated. "No, Ethan. Revenge would have been letting the loan go through, waiting until your sister defaulted, and then suing you both for damages. This," I gestured toward the door, toward the calm house behind me, "this is boundaries." He said nothing for a moment, then softly, "You've changed." "No," I said. "I just stopped covering for people who don't deserve it." He left quietly, and for the first time since this started, I felt a strange calm, the kind you get after locking the last window in a storm. The morning of the wedding arrived too bright for autumn. I hadn't planned to go anywhere, but when the detective called to confirm Ethan's arraignment had gone smoothly, he mentioned something else. "Funny thing, your name popped up again. A repo order for a Dodge Charger co-signed by Mr. Park and Ivy. Seems they've missed 3 payments already." My breath caught. "3? Yeah," he said. "Dealership's looking for the car." And just like that, the image I'd scribbled in the margin, 215, remember this? Clicked into meaning. That afternoon, I drove to West Haven Vineyard, not inside the venue, just near enough to see the gravel lot. Guests arrived in pastel dresses and suits. Laughter carried on the wind. Somewhere, someone played acoustic guitar under a canopy of white flowers. At 2:14, a large white tow truck turned onto the road. It rolled into the lot with the quiet authority of inevitability. I watched from my car as the driver scanned license plates, then stopped. The Charger gleamed in the sunlight, center stage, near the arch of roses. He backed up, lowered the hook, and within seconds the wedding's centerpiece became cargo. People started shouting. Guests pointed. Ivy came running down the steps in her dress, veil half-pinned, face white as linen. Ethan followed, shouting at the driver, waving his arms. The repo man showed them paperwork, calm and unmoved. Mr. Park arrived last, red-faced, yelling so loudly I could hear him through the closed car windows. Cameras clicked somewhere nearby. The driver kept working. When the truck began to pull away, Ivy screamed something I couldn't make out. The bride's veil fluttered in the dust. I felt my heart beat once, twice, then slow to steady. Through the chaos, Ethan's gaze found me. Recognition hit his face like a slap. He stormed across the parking lot. I lowered my window halfway. "You did this," he shouted. "I didn't," I said evenly, "but you built it." He pounded the glass. "You're a vindictive—" I lifted my phone, recording again. His father's voice shouted for him to stop. He froze, jaw tight, eyes burning. "Pay your debts, Ethan," I said quietly. "All of them." Then I rolled up the window and drove away, the sound of the truck's engine following me down the hill like applause I didn't ask for. There's a sound a car makes when it's lifted by a tow truck. Not a screech or a thud, but a groan. Metal realizing gravity has found it again. That's the sound that marked the exact moment Ivy Park's perfect wedding cracked down the middle. 2:15 p.m., just like the number I'd scrawled weeks earlier. I sat in my car 3 rows back, shaded beneath an elm tree at the edge of the gravel lot. From where I was parked, the vineyard looked like something out of a bridal magazine. White canopy, strings of fairy lights, champagne flutes catching the sun. Everything staged for forever. And in the middle of that fairy tale, the repo truck backed up with practiced precision, the kind that comes from routine. One hook, one chain, one inevitable pull. The Charger's front end lifted, and the crowd began to notice. At first, it was murmurs, a few guests whispering, laughter even. But when Ivy's fiancé Daniel stepped out, tie half done and panic crawling up his face, the whispers turned into noise. Then came Ivy herself, running across the gravel in her dress, veil snapping behind her like a flag surrendering. "Stop! That's my car!" she screamed. Her voice carried clear across the lot. The repo driver, bless him, didn't even flinch. He held up paperwork like a priest reading scripture. "Miss, this vehicle is under repossession order. 3 payments missed." Ivy blinked, stunned. "That's not possible. My dad's—" Mr. Park appeared then, red-faced, shouting over her. "There must be a mistake. We made those payments." The driver turned the clipboard around. "Tap the signature line." "This says otherwise, sir." I watched it all unfold, the arguing, the pointing, the disbelief. Like a play I had seen rehearsed too many times to feel surprised. Ethan arrived last, running down from the vineyard steps, jacket off, eyes scanning. When his gaze caught my car, I saw it, that flash of recognition, the moment where guilt and fury try to occupy the same space. He stormed toward me, gravel crunching beneath his shoes. I lowered my window halfway. "Afternoon," I said. "You called them," he hissed. I tilted my head. "Called who?" "The repo company. You tipped them off." "Ethan," I said softly, "I'm not the one who missed 3 payments." "You wanted this to happen," he snapped, hands gripping the edge of my window. "You wanted to humiliate us." "Humiliation," I said, "is a side effect of consequence, not my department." He slammed his fist against the glass, not enough to break it, just enough to shake the air between us. Behind him, Ivy was crying, her father shouting at the repo driver, the guests filming on their phones, despite pretending they weren't. "Get away from the car," I said. "I'm recording." He froze, saw the phone in my hand, the red light glowing. His expression changed, rage thinning into something brittle, afraid. He backed away, shoulders heaving. "You think this makes you righteous?" "No," I said. "It makes me safe." He stared for a long moment, then turned and walked back toward the chaos. The driver was already hauling the Charger away, the sound of the winch cutting through the summer air. I sat there until the truck disappeared down the hill. The guests tried to resume the ceremony, but it was too late. The spell was broken. The laughter that followed wasn't joy. It was confusion, nervous, half-hearted applause meant to glue the day back together. I drove off before anyone thought to look for me again. That night, I checked my phone. 37 messages. Half were from numbers I didn't know. Most were threats or insults. A few were just noise. "You'll regret this. She was your family too. You're a monster." One was from Daniel, Ivy's new husband. "For what it's worth, I didn't know about the car, or the forgery. I'm sorry you were dragged into it. I wish you peace." It was short, simple, and maybe the only honest thing I'd heard from any of them. I didn't reply, but I didn't delete it either. 3 days later, Detective Navarro called. "Mary, I wanted to update you personally," he said. "Ethan's been arrested, officially charged with identity theft and fraud." For a second, I couldn't speak. Then I managed, "Thank you." He exhaled softly. "You did everything right. Most people in your position feel guilty, like they went too far." "I don't feel guilty," I said. "I just feel finished." He chuckled. "That's a better place to be." After the call, I sat in silence for a long time. The quiet felt different now. Not like waiting, but like after a storm, when even the air sounds clean. The Parks didn't take it quietly. Mrs. Park showed up at my office one morning, tears streaking her face, shouting in the lobby about how I'd destroyed her children. Security had to escort her out. Mr. Park left a voicemail later that day. "You think you won? You humiliated us in front of everyone. We'll never forget this." He wasn't wrong. I didn't win. There's no victory in proving someone's betrayal, only clarity. Still, clarity has its own kind of peace. 2 weeks later, a friend sent me a photo from social media, Ivy's wedding pictures. They'd managed to finish the ceremony after all. Everyone smiling, pretending nothing had happened. No Charger in the background, no sign of Ethan. Just a line of people dressed for joy, standing on top of everything they refused to learn. I scrolled through each image, one by one, until I reached the end. Then I closed the app and whispered, "Good luck." I meant it in a way, because luck was the only thing they had left. The first thing you learn after a storm is how loud normal life sounds. The kettle whistles too sharply, the neighbor's lawnmower growls like thunder, and even the sound of your own keys in the lock feels like intrusion. Peace takes time to relearn. 2 weeks after the vineyard, Detective Navarro called again. "You won't have to testify," he said. "Ethan took a plea deal. Attempted identity theft, 2 years probation, 200 hours of community service, a fine. No jail time, but the conviction stays." For a moment, I just listened to the static between his words. Then I said, "So that's it." "That's it," he confirmed. Justice doesn't always look cinematic. No, I said softly, but sometimes it sounds like a case file closing. The Park family went quiet for a while after that. I imagined them around their dinner table, the same one where Ethan probably first pitched the idea of forging my name. Still defending, still rewriting. Every family has its favorite story. Theirs just happened to be fiction. Mrs. Park tried calling once more. Her voicemail was calm this time, rehearsed. Mary, I wanted to let you know Ethan's doing his hours, staying out of trouble. Ivy's marriage didn't work out, but she's coping. We're all trying to move on. Maybe you could too, for closure. I didn't call back. Some closures don't need a conversation. They're just the sound of a phone not ringing again. 6 months later, I came home from work and found a large cardboard box on my porch. No note, no knock. Inside, Ethan's things. The sweater he left draped over my chair, a pair of cufflinks, a photo album with corners torn where pictures had been removed. At the bottom was our old frame, the one that had cracked the night he left. The photo inside was gone, but the glass was replaced, clean, unbroken. I don't know if he'd meant it as an apology or just an attempt at symmetry. Either way, I left it on the porch until the next morning's trash pickup. Some memories don't belong indoors. A year passed. My credit recovered. The bank sent me a letter. Formal language, careful fonts, even an apology. We regret the inconvenience caused by the attempted fraud. That word, inconvenience, made me laugh. If theft is an inconvenience, heartbreak must be a clerical error. Still, I folded the letter neatly and tucked it in my file drawer beside the case documents, not out of sentiment, but record-keeping. Every wound deserves a timestamp. One evening, I stopped at a gas station on my way home. The air smelled of rain and asphalt. When I looked up, I saw Mr. Park at the next pump. He froze. So did I. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. He looked older, shoulders heavier, eyes softer. I wondered if he'd rehearsed what he might say if we ever met again. He didn't say anything, just nodded once, tight and wordless, before turning back to his truck. That was enough, a truce carved out of exhaustion. I finished pumping gas and drove off, headlights cutting through drizzle. In the rearview mirror, he was already gone. 8 months after that, an email arrived from Ethan. The subject line, I understand now. I stared at it for a full minute before opening it. Mary, I completed my probation. I've been going to counseling. I know it doesn't fix what I did, but I wanted you to know I finally get it. It wasn't about the car. It was about control and trust, and thinking I could fix things by breaking rules. I'm sorry. You didn't deserve any of it. I hope you're doing well. E. I read it twice, then closed my laptop. There are apologies that belong in court records, and others that belong in silence. His, somehow, belonged in both. I didn't respond. I did, however, forward it to myself. For records, subject line blank. These days, my life looks deceptively ordinary. Same house, same job. A new lock on the cabinet. A new kettle that whistles lower, less impatiently. Sometimes people ask if I ever think about him. I say no, but that's not entirely true. I think about the version of myself who thought love meant understanding every bad decision, forgiving every boundary crossed. I think about how easily we mistake endurance for compassion, and I think about how quiet justice can be. It doesn't shout, it doesn't gloat. It hums, a low, steady sound beneath the rhythm of your days, reminding you the world has a balance, and you finally stepped back onto the right side of it. A few nights ago, I drove past West Haven Vineyard. The fairy lights were gone, the canopy packed away. Just rows of vines under a gray sky, the gravel still dusted with old tire marks. I rolled down the window, breathing in the scent of rain on soil. The same ground where everything fell apart had grown new grapes, new beginnings, new chances to be better than before. People like to say karma takes time. They forget it's patient, not slow. It waits until the noise fades, then arrives when you've already stopped expecting it. Not to punish, but to even the wait. And when it does, it sounds a lot like that tow truck did at 2:15 in the afternoon. Steady, unhurried, inevitable. Justice doesn't need applause. It just keeps moving forward.